super important to me to get you in the smallest pack I can.
Hey y'all, Dan here. Thanks for joining me. When I first got into backpacking, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anything about equipment. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. After a lot of research and a lot of trial and error, I started getting out on the trail. A place that I went to get some of my first equipment was REI. Now understand, this channel is not supported or sponsored by REI in any way. They are a great source of equipment, and they're a great source of information and education. Something I learned about them this week was something called REI Virtual Outfitters. And today, Brett came online with me, and we had a face-to-face over the computer video teleconference. It was amazing. Brett was filled with information and great ideas, and I'm going to let him explain to you the big three.
I've traditionally used the big three as what you just said. It's really the sleep system, the tent, and then the backpack. Your backpack should be last. I did it the opposite. I got my backpack first. I loved that backpack. It was a great backpack. Still is. I still use it, but it's heavy and it's big. And I recently went from a 65 liter to a 45 liter because I scaled down all of the other stuff. And now I've dropped my weight from about 32 pounds to now about 23. And that's typically with 4 to 5 days of food. But I confess, I do use a lot of dehydrated food.
I do sometimes use dehydrated and my weight is lower then. I'll usually add some real food in with it, particularly for during the day. So I'll do a freeze-dried breakfast, freeze-dried dinner, and then real food, snack food during the day.
Yeah.
Or I'll pack in some cheese and some tortillas, stuff like that. So I have no problem with the freeze-dried.
If I can, back to the tent. Which tent were you describing from REI?
The Quarter Dome SL2. You should be seeing, yeah. So that's the Quarter Dome SL2, $349. I'll pull up the Tiger Wall to see how much it is. So that's a pricey tent, right? But very lightweight. Packs down really small. It's got some specs on it. Package weight is 2 pounds 14. Your real weight is probably around 2 pounds 10. That's a nice light tent, but that's an expensive tent. Now the flip side is, right, this is more likely the tent a new backpacker is going to buy. This is the Passage 2 at $159. And so let's see weight on this. Packaged weight is 5 pounds 10 ounces.
That's pretty heavy.
That $200 is saving you 3 pounds.
Yeah, that's
right?
heavy.
And that's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And so there are a million tents in the person tent category.
Yeah.
So there's tons of options, but this is not a bad place to start. Yeah.
And those are freestanding tents, meaning that they have a framework that holds them up, right?
And actually the Quarter Dome is partially freestanding. So if you look at this corner, it's only one pole in the back of the tent. And you have to stake out this corner. And so tents are a big place that you can play that sort of dollars versus weight game. Sleeping bags, equally, you can play that dollars versus weight. Sleeping pads are remarkably affordable for lightweight. For $99, you have probably 4 or 5 sleeping pad options that all come in right around £1.
Now, are they insulated or not?
They are insulated.
Okay.
Yeah. I personally won't put someone in a non-insulated pad.
Yeah.
Even if you say, oh, it's going to be, I'm going to Death Valley, it's going to be 110 degrees during the day. Yeah, but the temperature is going to drop. And as soon as the ground temperature is cooler than your body temperature, it's going to start pulling heat out of you.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Do non-insulated pads.
I bought my big Agnes from REI. That has been the sleeping bag I've used now for about 4 years, and I love that sleeping bag. It's the Ultra. It is insulated, but again,
the orange one, or was it? It might have been 4 years. It might have been a different color.
No, it was the orange one. It had just come out. I also got the airbag to blow it up because my old tired lungs at the end of the day. It's great.
Oh, you know what? I've got it. That's the pad my wife uses, and I've got the pump sack for it, and that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. So that pad right now is, I want to say it's like 109, and it's right at a pound or a few ounces above, and it's a great deal. I use the REI Flash pad, which packs a little bit smaller, is mummy shaped. So it's not as plush, it's not as thick. It is still insulated, but it weighs 15 ounces, and it's $99.
Yeah.
So it's a great little pad. And there are a number of pads like that that pack small, are super lightweight. They're all blow-up pads, in fairness, but pack small, are pretty lightweight, and are not going to break the bank. So I feel like that's a relatively easy one for people. I like, particularly for seniors, so as we get older, our body fat, diminishes for a lot of us, but also moves, right? And so when I turned like 45, for years I used a classic Thermarest 1.5-inch thick self-inflating pad. And I move around a lot during the night, but for a fair amount of the night I sleep on my side. And I was waking up with shoulder pain and realized that fat that had been in my shoulder, which had been a pad, had either left or moved. So I was no longer getting that sort of extra padding, and I had to go to a thicker pad. And I went through 3 or 4 pads just like over the course of 3 or 4 years. Like after a year, I'd be like, okay, this was good, but let's try something else.
Yeah, I see the young people, and they will have the foam pads.
Yeah.
And
forget that.
at my age, I can't do that. I did it when I was in the Army, when I was a young soldier, but not anymore. And I have a friend that I'm a side sleeper, and then he says, well, he's a rotisserie sleeper because he rolls on. And I said, actually, that's what I am too.
I like that. That's a good phrase. I'm going to steal that phrase.
Yeah, that's from Senior Hiker 77. He has a YouTube channel, and he's a great guy.
So I think the pad that you're using is the Big Agnes insulated air core is a great pad for seniors. It's not very expensive. It packs small and light. It's super comfy. So I think that's a good way to go.
So what's the difference between a sleeping bag and a quilt?
So great question. A sleeping bag encapsulates you with a zipper and a hood. A quilt, which really started off as essentially a blanket, right? But I don't know why they decided to call it a quilt instead of a blanket because it sounds cooler. But they have undergone some changes. So now most quilts will be, if you think of a blanket that has the foot sewn together in a box, essentially. Mm-hmm. So you put your feet in it. So essentially it's got the foot, maybe the bottom foot of a sleeping bag, and then the rest of it is completely open. Doesn't have a zipper and doesn't have a hood, and may or may not have a couple of snaps or a couple of hooks or a couple little pieces of Velcro, so that if you wanted to close it up onto itself, you could. But there are definitely going to be gaps between the snaps where airflow can move through.
Okay.
And so the big advantage is it saves a lot of weight. The zippers are heavy. But the downside is you're not getting that sort of encapsulating warmth that you get with a sleeping bag. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is that the way that a sleeping bag works is it just traps air inside the bag, and your body warms that air, and that air gets stuck in the insulation. Yeah. And that's how it keeps you warm. And so any movement of air in and out of that bag is going to cool you off. And the problem with a quilt is that there are you can absolutely wrap yourself in it and curl up in it and things like that. But the potential, and no hood, the potential for air movement in and out is there. And so that concerns me. I love a mummy sleeping bag.
Yeah, I love my Igneo. I mean, if I want the air, the thing, and this is a personal preference, I'll
unzip it.
Unzip it or zip it from the bottom up. You can zip and open up that toe box a little bit and get some air down. But when I was in Wyoming and it was 19 degrees, I was wearing all of my base layers, and I had my puffy on, and I had the mummy hood up over it, and I was toasty. Yeah. I felt good.
Be careful with the puffy inside the sleeping bag, because what then is going on is your body is warming the air in the puffy, but none of that warm air is getting into the sleeping bag. So at least for your top half, the sleeping bag isn't really at that point doing anything. Your puffy jacket is, right? And the bottom half, you're sleeping. Your legs are able to warm the bag. So if you want to be warmer in the bag, instead of the puffy, I would do it like a fleece, which will allow.
Oh, that's a good point.
Fleece. I'd allow which will allow some airflow through, or even just a second base layer on top of your first, or a thicker base layer, which will allow some airflow, and you're still warming the bag.
We talked about base layers. I'm not sure everybody. When I first started hiking, I had no idea what they meant by base layer.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand base layers. Base layers are essentially a next to skin layer that has two jobs depending on its thickness, but for the most part, we're talking about mid-weights, which is what most people use. And when we're talking about sleeping bags, mid-weights are the base layers that they're using to confirm the temperature rating on a bag. So mid-weight is a next to skin layer. Its job is to do two things: to add a little bit of insulation to your skin, but at the same time to move moisture away from your skin to the outside of that base layer, so that it can then evaporate.
I do. I've got the Smart Wool base layers, and I was hiking the Appalachian Trail in March. I was down in northern Georgia in the mountains, and it was 19 degrees. That base layer was remarkable. Now, I take it off before I hit the trail. I find that, hiking even in low temperatures, your body heats up pretty good. So you start coming out of layers.
Yeah, and so that's a perfect point. We talk a lot about, start cold, because you're going to warm up. So you should be a little cold before your hike or paddle or ride or whatever it is you're doing. So you should be a little cold before you start, because you're going to get warm. I actually go the other way. I will generally leave base layers on all day long. Like, I am more likely to take off my pants and put on a pair of shorts and leave the base layers on.
I've seen a lot of guys do that.
Yeah. Yep. They're comfortable. And then if I get cold, I can just throw on a layer on top of them. Yeah. So, but right there is what this is all about. It's taking sort of the tools that we all have access to and figuring out what works for us. And we are all different. It's about figuring out what works for us.
And that's the fun part of it as well. It's we don't have all the answers going into it, so we experiment, and that's part of the hike your own hike philosophy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Now we talked about sleep systems. We talked about the pad and the sleeping bags, quilts. We talked about tents, backpacks.
Yes. Okay. The first thing to understand about buying a backpack. Buying a backpack is like buying a pair of shoes. They all look good on the wall. Until you put it on, you don't know what it's going to feel like.
Yeah.
But unlike shoes, just putting a backpack on by itself is not doing you any good. We have to, this is sort of similar to shoes. We have to know what size you are. Every backpack has two sizes. A volume, which is indicated in liters. So if you've got a pack like the REI Flash 55, that's indicating that it is 55 liters of storage. But it's also got a size small, medium, large. And that's how it fits a human being. And for the most part, we all come in different shapes and sizes. Not every pack is going to fit every person well. And you need to find one that fits your shape well. But in order to figure out what size you are, we need to measure your torso. And there are instructions on that online, and I can send you a link as to how to do it. That said, a torso measurement is a starting point, not an ending point.
Yeah.
But you've got to try a pack on, and you've got to try a pack on with weight in it. And you only need between 10 and 15 pounds. So you don't need a full load. And the dead weight that we use in stores will not feel like a loaded pack, but it's enough weight that it'll tell the pack fitter, if they know what they're doing, by looking at it, the pack fitter will be able to say, this is a good fit or this is a bad fit.
Yeah.
But it will, more importantly, be able to tell the wearer of the pack if it's comfortable or not, right? As a pack fitter, I can't tell if that pack is comfortable for you.
Right.
I can tell it if it looks right, but I can't tell how it feels. Only you can do that. So please, we would love to do a pack fitting for you. Come in, let us measure you, let us find the right size pack, let us put some weight in it. It takes about 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's so worth it.
It makes all the difference. My first serious backpack, that's what we did. I went in, it was up in Maine, great store and great customer service. Went up and he looked at me, he looked at different types of packs. He said, this might work I put it on. He adjusted it to fit me, and then he put 15 pounds in it, and he says, "Okay, go walk around the store." And so I walked around literally for an hour for me, because I was trying to figure all this out. It was buckled up, and just how to do everything. And came back. Now this is the backpack that I had until this year, when I switched to something that was lighter. But I love that backpack still. We'll still use it, on short trips.
Do you remember what pack it was?
Yeah.
What was it?
It's an Osprey AG65.
Okay.
Great backpack.
That's the old one, AG65. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was an Atmos 65.
Atmos.
And so you're really summing up perfectly. So you went from a 65 to a 45. What's the new pack?
It's made by Hilltop Packs, and it's a 40.
Yeah. And it's a Hilltop 45. The bulk of the packs that we sell are in the 45 to 65 liter range.
Yeah.
You went from the top of the range to the bottom of the range, which is awesome. Gear has gotten so much smaller and so much lighter that pack sizes don't need to be that big. So this goes right back to what we were talking about: is buy your gear first, and that'll dictate your pack size.
Yeah. Great tips, great ideas, super advice. This is off the big three, but my shoes and socks, that's also evolved over time. So
yeah, absolutely. I still recommend a full boot for new backpackers in general, because they're a little bit heavier. But I want you as a new backpacker to have that foot and ankle support.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a runner or something like that, where you already have that foot and ankle strength. You haven't built up the strength in your feet, your ankles, and your calves. And so I want you to have a little bit of extra support. But then I tell them, but season 2, go out and shop for a pair of either trail runners or a hiking specific shoe. Get yourself something light. Once you've sort of built up the feel for what you need, and what trails are like, and the places you like to hike, if you feel like you want to go to a smaller, lighter shoe, go for it.
And for all of this stuff, it is an investment. If you have a choice. If you're just getting started into it, you may get into it and not like it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you get into it and you like it, now you're starting to invest into what my wife wanted me to do for the 30 years I was in the Army, to have a hobby. This has become my hobby. I love it, and so I tend to invest into it.
The thing that's interesting is I talk to a lot of guys who are in the Army or just about out of the Army, and I'm like, "Are you a backpacker?" It's like, "I've done enough backpacking with the Army, thank you." But you just kept walking.
Well, yeah, I got reintroduced into it. I had a former Marine. He stopped me once. He said, "I'll never put on another rucksack." I said, "I'll tell you what I'm wearing today, I wish the Army and the Marine Corps would have adopted it back when I was a young troop, because this is nothing like what we had."
I also do frequently deal with guys who are in the military who are getting ready for a trip, and I'm like, "Do you need help with a pack?" They're like, "Nope, I've got my, insert Army pack here, my Alice pack, my Molly pack, whatever. I forget what the new one is called." And I'm like, "Okay, that's great. I have a pack that I love too, but here's the one thing I want to throw out there. The U.S. Army or the U.S. Marine Corps does not care if you're comfortable.
Oh, no.
You're no longer carrying 100 pounds of ammunition. When you decide you want a pack that fits you well and is comfortable, come back and see me." And they always come back. It takes a little while, but they always come back.
Brett, thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Dan. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, that was pretty amazing. Brett obviously is well experienced and has a wealth of knowledge about him. And I hope it's been helpful to you. Looking forward to getting out, showing you some things, doing some comparisons. There's all kinds of things to use your equipment to have multiple purposes for the same gear, and things that helps me cut my weight and makes everything lighter. Because honestly, as I get older, the weight just wears my joints down. So it's becoming more important to me to seek that lighter stuff, but it doesn't have to break the budget. And so we're going to go through, as I prepare for a hike that's coming up in a couple of months, going through and sharing with you the choices that I made and why I made those choices. I appreciate you coming along this time. Stay with us and we will see what lies ahead. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay on the path, and God bless you.